Hare Krishna. We're continuing with Venu-gita by His Holiness Sivarama Swami, and we are starting chapter 12, which is called Pulindis Take the Remnants of Kumkuma. And it's based on Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-17, which goes like this. Purna Pulindya Udugaya Padabjaraga Shri Kumkumena Daitastana Manditena Taddarshana Smararujastrinardushitena Limpantya Ananakucheshu Jahus Tad Adim. The Aborigine women of the Vrindavan area became disturbed by lust when they see the grass marked with reddish kumkum powder. Endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet, this powder originally decorated the breasts of his beloveds. And when the Aborigine women smear it on their faces and breasts, they give up all their anxiety. Right, so here we go. Kumkum is the vermilion cosmetic powder used by ladies in Vedic culture. Primarily dusted on the exposed portion of the breast, it may be lightly applied all over the body or face to tinge the complexion reddish. Like all ladies of their time, the gopis used kumkum powder, and in their loving pastimes with Sri Krishna, some of that powder would be transferred to him. The pages of Srimad Bhagavatam are a testament to the recurring role kumkum plays in the pastimes of Sri Hari. Whether it acts as an impetus to ecstatic love, inciting spontaneous attachment in Sri Krishna or his associates, as a messenger to declare the good fortune of the gopis who have enjoyed his embrace, or as a means to relinquish the pangs of separation in his absence, the many references to this simple vermilion powder proclaim its good fortune. As a husband separated from his chaste wife smears her face with kumkum upon his return, the appearance of the long-expected full moon of the Kartik month smeared the eastern horizon with a polished reddish color, reminding Raj's prince of his vow to accept the gopis as his wives. The naturally romantic atmosphere of the forest, filled with fragrant flowers and cooling breezes languishing under the gentle radiance of the autumn sky, inspired Sri Krishna to perform the rasa dance. Making his way to the bank of the sparkling Yamuna, Sri Krishna stood beneath the desire tree at Vamsivat and called the gopis with the alluring songs of his flute. As the flute, the acclaimed rival of the gopis, delivered its message to the housewives of Raj, a tidal wave of spontaneous attachment flowed through the forest of Vrindavan, bringing with it the many safari fishes of the gopis, whose only existence was the pleasure of Sri Krishna. After their initial meeting and coquetry, the gopis became proud to have the world-famous Sri Krishna as their paramour. To relieve them from their conceit and to show special favor to Sri Radha, Rasabihari disappeared from their midst, exhibiting his unparalleled spirit of renunciation. Taking only Srimati Radharani with him, Sri Krishna showed her the beauty of the midnight forest, pleasing her in many ways by his sweet words, his kind demeanor, and his exclusive attention. Feeling great unhappiness at their separation from Sri Krishna, the other gopis began to wander here and there, entering ever deeper into the dark forest. Searching for their beloved. When they came across a doe in quest of her mate, overwhelmed by the madness of separation and desperate to receive some news of Hari, the gopis questioned the ignorant creature. The bewildered gopis, now lamenting their pride, took the deer's natural movements as an indication of Sri Krishna's whereabouts and eagerly followed her. When a friendly breeze brought the fragrance of Sri Krishna's flower garland smeared with kumkum, their unhappiness abated, and they said, "O friend, wife of the deer, has Lord Achyuta been here with his beloved, bringing great joy to your eyes? Indeed, blowing this way is the fragrance of his garland of kunda flowers, which was smeared with the kumkum from the breasts of his girlfriend when he embraced her." The gopis entered deep into the dark forest, inquiring from all creatures of Sri Krishna's whereabouts. He, who is always beyond the reach of the mind and senses, followed behind the broken-hearted gopis, remaining invisible, but listening to their expressions of loving separation. When the gopis found a sorrowful Sri Radha left aside in the midst of their pastimes, they all took to performing the Sankirtan of Sri Krishna's names, and finally induced him to appear among them, quelling their great sadness and drying their tears. In the happiness of his association, the gopis forgot the great pain of his absence and tried to please him in many ways. Shukadeva Goswami said, their heartache vanquished by the ecstasy of seeing Krishna, the gopis, like the personified Vedas before them, felt their desires completely fulfilled. For their dear friend Krishna, they arranged a seat with their shawls, which were smeared with the kumkum powder from their breasts. Sitting by the bank of the Pulindis and surrounded by many humming bees, Sri Krishna and the gopis enjoyed the enchanting beach, which was scented with a breeze bearing the fragrance of blooming kunda flowers. As the gopis exchanged loving glances and sweet words with their beloved, their minds were drawn by a desire to place his lotus feet to their hearts. Remembering how he follows the cows, walking barefoot through rocks and thorns, their minds became disturbed and they experienced great pain. To mitigate his discomfort and assuage their anxiety, they desired to offer Sri Krishna the softest of footpaths, their own delicate bodies. With only the forest of Vrindavan and the full moon as witness, they said, Yatte sujata charanam buduham staneshu, Vita shanai priya dadhimahi karkasheshu, Tenatavim atasitad vyatate nakim svit, Kurpadi bir brahmati dir bavad ayusham naha. The gopis said, O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breasts, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. Understanding their transcendental aspirations, Sri Krishna, who was always very lovingly disposed towards his devotees, fulfilled their desire, and the kumkum from the breasts of the gopis daubed his lotus feet, which are marked with the lotus conch and disc. By accommodating the gopis in this way, Sri Krishna's kumkum-stained feet became well known both within and without the borders of Raj. On his visit to Vrindavan, Akrura said, Krishna's lotus feet are worshipped by all the great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and yet with those very same feet, smeared with the kumkum from the gopis' breasts, the Lord walks about the forest while herding the cows with his companions. Many years later, while meeting with Draupadi Devi at Kurukshetra, the queens of Lord Krishna said, O saintly lady, we do not desire dominion over the earth, the sovereignty of the King of heaven, unlimited facility for enjoyment, mystic power, the position of Lord Brahma, immortality, or even attainment of the kingdom of God. We simply desire to carry on our heads the glorious dust of Lord Krishna's feet, enriched by the fragrance of kumkum from his consort's bosom. So everyone knows about this kumkum powder on Krishna's feet that comes from the breasts of the gopis. In commenting on this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that the consort being referred to by the queens is Srimati Radharani. Due to her extraordinary beauty and love, Sri Radhika knows no rival among the gopis, the queens of Dwarka, or the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha. Indeed, her bonds of attachment for him are the exclusive ropes by which the uncontrolled prince of Raj is brought fully under her control. And the kumkum on his lotus feet is the impeccable witness to her extraordinary prowess. Now the next section. Tending the cows in the association of his friends, Sri Krishna decorated the area of Govardhan Hill with his footprints, which were stained with the same kumkum that once adorned the breasts of Sri Radhika. Attracted by the sound of the flute, some Pulindis, girls belonging to an aboriginal forest tribe, came into a clearing in search of him. Burning with amorous desires, they noticed his all-attractive footprints, and taking its kumkum adornment and smearing it on their breasts and faces, they became free from the onslaught of Cupid. This summary is given in Sridhar Swami's commentary on this verse. When he left Nandagaon with his cows and friends, jovially entering the forests of Vrindavan, Krishna took with him the minds of his parents, girlfriends, and relations, leaving the Vrajvasis stunned like an army of dolls. At his departure, Mother Yashoda and Nandaraj fell over like trees uprooted by the wind. They were mechanically carried to Nandagaon by their associates, who continued their daily activities out of habit, constantly singing the glories of Sri Krishna as their only means of sustenance. Dispirited at his disappearance, Radhika also fell unconscious into the arms of her maidservants, which troubled Kundalata, who had given her promise to return her to Yavat after Govinda's breakfast. Although struck by feelings of separation, she controlled her own emotions and took Sri Radha and her girlfriends to the home of Abhimanyu, where the miser Jatila was already busy making numerous cow dung patties. It was only the cowherd boys and cows who continued to bask in the association of Sri Krishna, while their parents, relatives, and sisters mourned his absence. The town of Yavat is an hour's walk west of Nandagram. It is situated on a small hill and is the residence of the tribe of Abhimanyu, the husband of Sri Radha. The countless cows that comprise the herds of Ain Ghosh, a popular name of Abhimanyu, appear like the milk ocean surrounding Swetadweep, the island residence of Lord Vishnu. On the summit of the hill is the house of Jatila's son, shining like the palace of Lord Indra within the city of the Devas. In the center of that dwelling is a large courtyard that has as its ornament a 7-storied moon tower. To allay feelings of separation from her family, affectionate King Vrishabhanu constructed this extraordinary palace for the pleasure of his beloved daughter. From the top of the tower, Sri Radha can readily see her paternal home at Varshana, which is south of Yavat and southwest of Nandagaon. Another 3 yojanas further south of Nandagaon are Govardhan Mountain, Radha Kund, and the meandering assembly of the Prince of Vrindavan. Returning from Nandagram, Lalita and Vishaka brought Radharani to her own quarters, where her servants joyfully washed, wiped, and massaged her, and then again dressed and decorated her with fresh clothing and ornaments. When a garland-making girl named Narmada arrived with many Bakul, Saptala, Jati, Champaka, and Lavanga flowers, all slightly blooming and touched by honeybees, Sri Radhika immediately showed her skill in making a garland to decorate Sri Krishna's limbs. After stringing a Vaijayanti garland and preparing a tray of sweets, Sri Radhika happily sent some maidservants to deliver them to Govinda, who was at a heartbreaking distance from her. Climbing the stairs of her moon tower, sweet-faced Radhika was followed by her friends and maidservants, who ascended to the large terrace on its top, like smoke rising through the branches of a tree. The expanse of Vrindavan's pastures, dotted with hills, forests, rivers, and lakes, spread before her like a servant waiting on her mistress. Anxious to see Hari, she strained her beautiful eyes and placed her right hand to her forehead to screen the glare of the sun. Looking in the direction of Govardhan Hill, Sri Radha was able to perceive the ever-playful sports of her dearly beloved. As the sun rose steadily overhead, the many birds flying in the air sang of their love for Sri Krishna, and the wind blew gently, carrying the fragrance of blooming lotus flowers cooled by the spray from the Yamuna. Although Radhika had just recently departed from him, she was ever greedy to have the slightest glimpse of Sri Krishna's transcendental form as he wandered here and there, tending to his cows and playing with his friends. At some distance from Nandanandana's herd, the Pulindi girls, whose occupation was to collect wood and cow dung from Govardhan Hill, had become attracted to the reddish footprints decorating the soft undergrowth. When they smeared that kumkum over their faces, freely expressing their attachment for Sri Krishna, Gaurangi became envious of their fortune, and tears welled in her eyes as her body began to tremble. So Radhika's there in the moon tower, and she's watching these Pulindi girls, Aborigine girls, finding the kumkum powder from Krishna's feet and smearing it over their bodies, and she's feeling envious of their good fortune because she's stuck at home. Always the well-wisher of her Saki, knowing full well the emotions in her pure heart, and wishing to relieve her of the torment she felt, Lalita Devi took Radhika's hand in her own and said, Purna Pulindya Udugaya Padabjaraga Shri Kumkumena Daitastana Manditena Taddarshana Smararujas Trinarusitena Limpatya Anana Kucheshu Jahush Tad Adim. The Aboriginal women of the Vrindavan area become disturbed by lust when they see the grass marked with the reddish kumkum powder. Endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet, this powder originally decorated the breasts of his beloved. And when the Aborigine women smear it on their faces and breasts, they give up all their anxiety. This is the same verse from Bhagavatam, and it says that Lalita took Radharani's hand in her own hand, and she spoke this verse to her. Indignant at the repeated piracy of their property, which is Sri Hari's lotus footprints, Lalita Devi, the foremost among the gopi friends of Sri Radhika, said with some pride, "Someone may say the cloud is fortunate, for it has attained the association of Sri Krishna. But is it possible to describe the fortune of the low-class Pulindi women of Raj? Although they are members of the Shabara tribe and generally considered untouchables, we are confined to this dungeon of torment, while they have achieved satisfaction from the forces of Cupid. Smara's Cupid. So they're thinking, we're stuck here and they're out there in the forest where Krishna is, and they're taking the dust of his feet and smearing it on their bodies and relishing transcendental ecstasy." Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, "Kinchit sambandha matrena." This verse has no reference to the flute song, the beauty of Sri Krishna, his form, or his qualities. The mood of the gopis is now dominated by feelings of bewilderment, mohita, established by something that is in relationship to Krishna, the kumkum found on the grass by the Pulindis. Dressed in a sari as brilliantly colored as the tail feather of an ecstatically dancing peacock, her upper body covered with an extremely attractive bodice, her hair partition decorated with shimmering red vermilion, and wearing various necklaces and jeweled ornaments, Lalita Devi says, "Hey Sakis, although the clouds receive recognition for their service to Krishna and his associates in this forest of Vrindavan, which is worshipped by demigods and demons alike, even the Pulindis achieve good fortune. Can any of you comprehend the piety of these low-class women?" Her golden complexion defeating the color of Gorochana and possessing innumerable good qualities, Lalita Devi is the receptacle of Yashoda Devi's paternal affection. As an alternative to taking birth among the Aborigines of Braj, the guru of the Sakis now guides the gopis in how to achieve grace equal to the Pulindis. Apparently they're desiring to take birth among the Pulindi tribe so that they can be in that position rather than stuck in their homes. But Lalita Devi is suggesting that no, that's not the best idea. There's an alternative. You can achieve grace equal to the Pulindis. So she says, the Pulindis have achieved satisfaction by smearing their bodies with the kumkum that was once on Sri Krishna's lotus feet. What austerities they perform for this perfection as we remain afflicted by lust, I do not know. Friends, this is indeed a wonder. Vishaka, who is the very image of Srimati Radharani, being born on the same Bhadra Shukla Ashtami, the 8th day of the bright fortnight in the month of Bhadra, whose demeanor and behavior is like that of her beloved friend, and who instructs Radha and Krishna in their exchanges of love, replied, "When the gopis take the lotus feet of Hari and gently place it to their hearts, the kumkum which decorates their breasts sticks to his feet and becomes the cosmetic of the Pulindis. Although born of an inferior race, they know the extraordinary value of this priceless commodity and greedily mine it from the grass, creepers, and stones of Vrindavan. Dear friend, although you place questions before us as if bewildered, it is you alone who know the answer to your inquiry. Please do not raise a cloud of illusion before our eyes." Looking sweetly at Lalita, her voice laced with humility, Vishaka appealed, "Sakhi Lalite, as you are the knower of all things, please be kind to us. Be kind to us. We were born in neighboring villages. We played naked together in the dust. We grew to puberty concurrently. We were all married in Yavat, and our common life force is the Sangha of Shyamasundari. Please explain how it is that the Pulindis have become so fortunate. Having heard your words of wisdom, we shall follow their example and satisfy the burning in our hearts, which is the influence of that incorporeal god Cupid, and which has caused so much distress to the Rajagopis. Dressed and decorated like goddesses of fortune, their bodies resplendent with the opulence of youth and glowing like a radiance of molten gold, that assembly of gopis, along with Radhika, Lalita, and Vishaka, seemed like a heavenly ornament of gold and jewels suspended in the sky on a crystal column. The relentless attachment to Sri Krishna, which ever haunts the hearts of the gopis, caused them to speak that day of the inhabitants of Raj and the moods of affection they express. There was talk of clouds, cows, rivers, birds, peacocks, devis, deer, and bamboo rods by the riverside. By revealing the life of Vrindavan, the gopis shared its residents' love for Hari without disclosing their own conjugal attachment. In their honey-scented discussions throughout different parts of Raj, the gopis concealed their love from outsiders and from each other. With the indiscreet behavior of the Pulindis as a catalyst, that concealment had reached its unsuccessful conclusion, and the gopis' intimate love for Shyamasundar surfaced like a volcanic eruption. For the first time in Venu-gita, the gopis openly admit to associating with Sri Krishna. In the opinion of Sri Sanatana Goswami, this verse and the following two verses are spoken by Sri Radhika's assembly, which includes her Ashtasakis and their associates. The gopis' hearts were ablaze due to the consuming flames of Kama, and turning to Lalita Devi, they saw her instructions as a nectar shower to soothe their affliction. With many sweet words, they begged for her mercy, and as their representative, Vishaka requested her to describe the glories of Sri Krishna, the Pulindis, the Kumkuma, and the Rasa, which brought good fortune to the Aborigine girls. Now, finally, Lalita Devi is going to answer. Lalita Devi leaned against the crystal wall of the tower, a dainty smile on her lips, poised to reply. Although generally the focus of her associates, Srimati Radharani knew the mind of her beloved Lalita, and thus taking a few steps to the side, she retreated to a golden bench by the balustrade. Fixing her gaze on Sri Krishna, who, though distant, was seen by her eyes of love, and concentrating her attention on the words of Lalita, who, though near, was to be distanced by humility, Sri Radha took her seat surrounded by a few maidservants. Lalita said, "The Pulindis are vanacharis, forest women, and considered among the 7 low-class females of society. Because they maintain themselves by collecting firewood and cow dung, as well as undertaking a variety of unspecified services, they are rejected from the 4 varnas and ashrams. In essence, they are classified among the untouchables and can only be found on the earth planet. There is no Shastric reference to Pulindis residing either in heaven or Vaikuntha." Hearing this description, some of the gopis laughed, others showed expressions of disdain, while some looked down in embarrassment. Lalita Devi continued, "Although the Pulindis in Vraj appear like ordinary earthly women, they should not be disrespected in any way. They may have very full breasts, they may act very lustily, and they may be dissatisfied with their lovers' amorous advances. Still, while carrying water or churning yogurt, their simple songs and conversations are imbued with loving topics about Sri Krishna. O gopis, in this world it is love that is to be tasted. Those who possess such love, be they Pulindis or Yavanas, must always be the objects of our respect. They must never be ridiculed." Turning to the girls around her, Lalita Devi said, "Since some of us may have been Pulindis in our last lives, we should be considerate of our attitude towards them." Lalita's statement settled on the ears of her Sakhis like a fine mist. The gopis turned towards each other with glances of bewilderment, knowing well that she would rarely speak such words in jest. Seeing their raised eyebrows and perplexed looks, the eldest of the Sakhis continued. That eldest, says Lalita. "In ancient days, the righteous King Ram walked the earth for 14 years to fulfill the exile imposed by his mother Kaikeyi. At that time, he passed through many lands and blessed forest creatures and humans alike. After bestowing mercy on the many sages of Dandakaranya forest, Ramachandra continued to Panchavati, where he lived in a straw hut, ate roots, fruits, and berries, and slept on the ground. The crown prince of Ayodhya, who was accustomed to sleep on a soft bed, to eat opulent foods, and to enjoy all the luxury of palatial life, now lived like a true renunciant. Seeing this, the demigod shed tears that drenched the earth like torrents of rain. While in Panchavati, some aboriginal girls saw the divine form of Sri Ram. Overwhelmed with amorous desire, they smeared the dust of his lotus feet upon their bodies, and knowing of his vow to accept only Sita Devi as his spouse, they decided to give up their lives. Assuming the form of a handsome brahmachari, dressed in tree bark, possessing matted hair, carrying a stick, and bearing a kamandalu, the disguised king of Ayodhya said, "O ladies, there is no need for you to abandon this world without reason. At the end of Dwapara Yuga, in the land of Vrindavan, all your desires will be fulfilled." While they looked on in amazement, that brahmachari disappeared, and in time those Pulindis took birth as foretold by the Lord. Glancing at each and every gopi individually, Lalita Devi allowed the eloquent words of her long silence to make their teachings felt. Then she smiled, slightly nodding her head. Some gopis folded their hands in respect, while others bowed from the waist. Because a few seemed incredulous at Lalita's claims, she said emphatically, "Sarvam eva sambhavati." Everything is possible, my dear friends. After all, it is love that is to be tasted. Sitting nearby, Srimati Radhika thought to herself, "For their great anuraga to Hari, let these Aborigine girls be forever glorified. I offer my obeisances unto them." Understanding the mind of Sri Radha, Vishaka Devi inquired, "While the subject of this verse appears to be the Pulindis, my suspicion is that there is another, hidden and more prominent theme to be considered." Attracted by the revelation of a more confidential matter, the faces of the gopis blossomed like lotuses in the sun. "If you are aware of some deeper meaning in this pastime, then please speak it up, Vishake," said one girl. Glancing first to Radhika and then Lalita, Vishaka said boldly, "By the word Dayita, a heroine who is always pleasing to all, very affectionate to her friends, merciful to all beings, and the beloved object of the King of Heroes is implied. It is the glories of such a one that are to be known, for by her grace do the Pulindis gain any fortune at all." Well spoken, chimed that chorus of beautiful gopis. Suppressing a smile, Lalita inquired, "My dear friend, Priyasaki, why would I not give emphasis to the main subject of description and concentrate on a lesser one?" Vishaka looked around to confirm the privacy of their conversation, the other gopis following suit. "We gopis rarely speak openly in public, due to the obstacles in the form of family members, in-laws, and the norms of society. Therefore, to guard the secrets of our heart, on the pretext of glorifying one thing, we conceal our real intent by the use of oblique language. Is that not so, Saki Vrinde?" The gopis looked at each other, their eyes twinkling, happy that their diplomacy of love had been exposed. Alarmed at a conversation whose frontiers assured her own embarrassment, Radhika spoke within her mind. "Saki Vishake, tishta, hush, hush." Attentive to the desire of her dearest, Vishaka, also known as Anuradha, a constant follower of Radhika, said, "Lalita, you please explain clearly what you originally meant to say." Lalita Devi replied, "Very well. As we are in a secure location and not to be overheard by others, and the only secrets are those we keep from each other, I shall reveal the hidden meaning of this verse as suggested by our good friend." Let's see how much longer we have. Read a little bit more. Knowing that in the matter of glorifying her Yuteshwari, Lalita was more difficult to restrain than the others, Sri Radha only pressed herself further against her settee and lowered her beautiful face. She's like, "Oh no, here it comes." Lalita continued, "The word Dayita has an alternate singular and plural usage. In my opinion, this instance beggars, that's what it says. In my opinion, this instance beggars the singular case. Who is that heroine upon whose raised breast Sri Krishna always keeps his feet, and whose kumkum now adorns the land of Vraj and the bodies of the Pulindis?" "Rishubhanu Kumari Charana Pankaja Dutaya," called out Tungavidya, the knower of all knowable things. "She who is shining forward, being on the 7th stage of Mahabhav, Madana, Rishabhanu Kumari Radha is that same Dayita." Looking towards their Saki, who had hidden herself from sheer embarrassment, all the gopis clapped in unison, saying, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. Within her mind, Srimati protested the singular use of Dayata and dictated to Lalita the plural meaning and its consequences. Responding aloud, Lalita said, someone may argue that the secrecy with which the gopis guard their own good fortune is the cause for the singular use of Dayata, rather than the obvious plural one. After all, it is well known to me that you have all enjoyed the good fortune of placing Govinda's musk-scented feet to your hearts. To reinforce her argument, such a person may argue that due to their great anurag, each and every gopi shines forth in the Lila Kata of Govinda. Hearing this reasoning, learned girls like the twins Sudevi and Rangadevi gracefully shook their heads. Lalita continued, but I do not accept such a proposition to be accurate. What we have heard from Tungavidya is certainly an exceptional understanding. Who can equal her in the knowledge of linguistic sciences? She who is foremost among other heroines qualifies as Dayata. Other than our beloved Radha, who could that be? Because she does not like such glorification, I have praised the Pulindis, who are worthy due to their treasure of Anuraga. Please forgive me for my omission, but as Vishaka says, things should be spoken as they are, concluded Lalita Devi. Sri Radha whispered to Rupa Manjari, their faces almost touching, then why not let that singular person be Lalita or Vishaka, who both have close loving encounters with Hari? Responding to her friend's suggestion, Lalita replied, because Sri Radha treats Sakis like Vishaka as her equal, the status of such gopis appears even. Using such false logic, someone else may argue that any Priyanarma Saki can be called Dayata. To this, I have a simple reply. Everyone remembers how Sri Krishna unhesitatingly abandoned millions of moon-faced gopis for Radha's exclusive association on the full moon night of Sharad. What superior evidence is required to establish Sri Radha's unrivaled station? Although her Sakis are effulgent like the sun, their effulgence is not self-manifest. It is a reflection of Radhika's own splendor, manifesting in their forms as a consequence of their having taken complete shelter of her. Speaking in an almost audible whisper, her beautiful complexion tinged by the red glow of embarrassment, Sri Radha said, Lalita, why do you not describe some other aspect of this verse? She's like, let's change the subject. Vishaka Devi, being always ready to fulfill the desires of Radhika, said, Kena Pulindinam tasya kim. Dear Saki, please explain how it is that the Pulindas acquired the kumkum powder, now decorating their limbs. All right, we're going to have to stop here because time. And tomorrow I think we can finish this chapter about the Pulindas. I'll try to. All right, so everyone, thank you for coming and for listening. And we'll hear more about the Pulindas tomorrow. Venu-gita ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.